And welcome YouTube, and welcome back to part 2 of the video where I will be going over my reactions to the FA allocations this season. This will be for Tier 9 and Tier 10 clubs, which there's quite a lot of leagues to get through, so I think we'll just dive straight into it. We're going to look at the Combined Counties League to begin with, which I think is probably the most controversial of the ones in sort of tier 10, potentially maybe that or the Southwest Peninsula League. We'll go through why in a minute, but we're going to be looking at, first of all, the Premier Division North one. We've had Abingdon United being promoted after a long time absence from this level. They were a very historical club back in the day. Some of you may have memories of the old Abingdon derby of Abingdon United versus Abingdon Town being a Southern League fixture at one point in the past. They've now gone back to the Tier 9, which they were last at in 2018-19. Yeah, as I said, originally a Southern League club for a great many years, between 2006-7 to 2012-13. They were at that level. So yeah, certainly a team which you would say has the pedigree in the past to be able to do well. Whether their current basis of a team will mean so, I'm less convinced. Ashford Town are a team who've been relegated into this league. And you're already beginning to see, just by these two mentioning, how far apart some of it is, with Abingdon all the way out in Oxfordshire. And so some of them quite near London, and some of them, quite frankly, nowhere near. Ashford are an interesting team. They've spent the last few years now, I believe, in the Southern League, or the Isthmian League, rather. The Isthmian League, South Central. I've been in there for a fair few seasons, as I said. But they're now dropping back down to the Combined Counties League. They were in the Combined Counties League back in the 1990s. Well, they've sort of gone from strength to strength since then and haven't really looked back. So it does mark a return after a long absence being in Tier 9. They would expect an instant return. So yeah, Kidlington are also in this one. Allegedly the largest village in the UK. They've just been promoted from Southern League Division 1 Central. Very much a team that have played in the Southern League for a while now. Since 2015-16, they were in the Southern League. So yeah, another one of them long-term running teams that have unfortunately had the drop this season. I mean, much like Abingdon, you both expected them probably to be in the Hellenic League. Seeing they're both in Oxfordshire, and that's normally a bit more slanted of where it goes. So just that's one of the key changes to the pyramid this season, seeing some Oxfordshire-based teams moving across to the Hellenic League. Same with North Lee, who are also from Oxfordshire, so make that 3. And they've been sort of coasting along for a while in the Southern League Division 1. They were actually in the Premier Division South in, I believe it was 2022-23. And so they've had back-to-back, well, not quite back-to-back relegations, but almost back-to-back relegations, with one season in between in which they didn't do that well either. So whether that's a slump that will continue remains to be seen. They are, I believe, again, another team which I would have seen in the Hellenic League in a previous life. So certainly this combined counties malarkey it's covering a big geographical area in terms of uh, club side, like clubs, but actually the area of the country it covers isn't that big. And I think I mentioned that at one point in that video, which I mentioned in the last video about where I was talking about the restructuring of a pyramid, and how I thought combined counties overbalanced, in a sense, the non-league scene to favour the south. And it's certainly the case, hence why they've had some teams that would normally be in that sort of Hellenic League base. I'm going to talk a bit about Windsor and Eton, who got promoted. They're an incredibly interesting story, which I talked about when I was talking about the promotions and relegations video. So I won't go into all of them details. It's back-to-back promotions for Windsor and Eton. This is not the original Windsor and Eton that was in the Southern League all them years ago. And it's technically not even the Phoenix Club. It was a club which was set up after Windsor left the town of Windsor to ground share with Bracknell, and Windsor and Eton have taken the place at Stag Meadow, and attracting lots of fans, it must be said. They beat the Thames Valley Premier record, which is probably unlikely to be beaten, of 1,022 fans. They reached the third round of the FA Vars last season. So you've got to say that it's not. If they continue on the trajectory they're going, they could well be running for the promotion this season. On to the southern half, which is yet to be fully decided because there's still playoffs to be determined, I believe. They last a long time, don't they? But we're just checking when they're due to be played. I think they are. Why is it done that? The FA's website is so confusing, but there should be playoffs involved. I know Jersey's one of them teams, because the playoffs were postponed. Some farcical nature, to be honest. Really, it was all about a points deduction and whether someone is actually can get the title. So they got a points deduction, Jersey, because of, I believe, fielding an eligible player. But this was a lack of clarity issue concerning the yellow cards received. It was all very messy, essentially, and it's meant that Red Hill got the title based on points deduction to Jersey, and that it's a whole sort of mess right now when the playoffs are even going to happen. Talk about some of the teams which we do know which are going to be in it is Badshot Lee, the team that could only last one season at or not one season, sorry, that's being unfair. 2 seasons in the Isthmian League, having been runners-up in 2022-23, getting them promoted to the South Central Division of the Isthmian League. I mean, they've certainly had their highs and lows moments. I mean, questions will inevitably be surrounding whether they can make an instant return. I personally think it's going to be a struggle if Jersey don't get promoted. They, I think, are going to be strong this season if they're not. Eversley and California have been promoted. Bit of an odd name, that one. Unique, some would say. And they've certainly been on the rise. I think this is the highest level they've ever been at. They spent quite a long time in Tier 10 now. in a sense, since Eversley merged with California to form their name, and they were unable to make a promotion last time round because of the floodlights. So clearly, now that they are available to be here, it will remain to be seen, I suppose, how competitive they're going to be. They've not got a large catchment area to speak of. Eversley is a small village in Hampshire, so getting them players in may be a bit more difficult. Sutton Common Rovers have been relegated, a team which probably not a lot of you know about because they're not the main team from Sutton, and they had that good FA Cup run. They didn't have an FA Cup run really. I was trying to see if they did, but they haven't. The highest they were ever finishing was second in the Combined Counties League Premier Division in 2018-19, which saw them promoted, I believe, to the Isthmian League in the process. And they had back-to-back 17th place finishes in their 2021-22, 2022-23, and then the season before last, they finished 14th. So it looked like they were steadily building up, and but this season, that's all come crashing down to see them relegated back to the Combined Counties League. Thatcham Town, again, another teams that seem to get laterally switched if they don't get relegated. They got laterally switched last season between the Isthmian South Central and the Southern League South. And that has meant ultimately quite a difficulty for Thatcham, as they've failed to persuade players from the Greater London region to come to the club. They may be able to do so now, but in Combined Counties League, there's a lot of teams within Combined Counties League which are near London. So I think you'll look at that one and you'll certainly see, I think, they could be competitive again this season. They were at Tier 8 since 2018-19, and before that, they were in the Hellenic Premier League. Again, another one of them teams that you're questioning about whether they should be in the Combined Counties League in the first place, as a Combined Counties League seems to have been migrating further west so far this season, or for this upcoming season. And some of them ones which we still have is such as Tadley Cleaver and Alton, you would potentially say, they could be in the Wessex League. So I think it would be for the benefit of everybody if they merged the two leagues together, because personally I think to have two ones basically covering Surrey and down to Surrey to Oxfordshire, it's not feasible. It's not a very large geographical area compared to some of the ones which are covered, such as the Northern League or the United Counties League, have a lot larger geographical areas. And it's not fair because it means that actually there's a bottleneck in terms of teams in the Northern League, whereas there's plenty of teams coming up in the south, and it's having an impact further upon the pyramid as you go through. On to the Combined Counties League. Deportivo Galicia, Rising Ballers, Kensington and Windsor can all breathe a sigh of relief that they have not been relegated. Berks County did get relegated. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. They certainly, I don't think, would have had a long-term future at Step 5. Sandhurst Town, similar vein, they've been relegated back to the Combined Counties League Division 1. I can't remember how long it's been now since they were last at that level, but they were certainly 2022-23, I believe they were on the league, and they were at Tier 10 level for a long time at that point when they got promoted. So I think we may see another long stint for them. There's a team called SL Benfica who have been promoted, which I had to do a bit of Googling out. Apparently, it's actually standing for Sport E London Benfica. And I mean, I know it's one of them funny sort of Sport London Benfica. It's one of them ironic things, you know. They're named after, I think they're made from Portuguese influence. The owner is Andre Raposo. They've been growing steadily. This is a back-to-back promotion. So in Middlesex County League Division 1 Southwest, or Tier 12 in 2023-24. Really coming on that rise. Although they have been at Tier 10 before, when they were in the Spartan South Midlands League Division 1. You may remember that in the early 2000s. Back in 2006 sort of time, but they resigned halfway through the 2010-11 season, I believe it was. So yeah, I mean, they are a typical example for me of football teams that I can't really get behind, of ground sharing to get promotion. We'll probably be going through quite a lot of them, but they particularly seem to be concentrated in the south east region of the country, actually. There's a few other elsewhere in the country, but mainly in the southeast, in order to gain promotion, that they're going to ground share in order so they get the ground requirements. And that's both on the FA trying to get more teams into the pyramid and opening up the pyramid, but at the same time, it's also the clubs have got aspirations, but if they've got aspirations, they've got to have the finances to meet that. A team which has been relegated is Spelthorne Sports Club. Now, Spelthorne's a bigger area. I've always thought that Spelthorne Sports would be more than adequate to compete in Tier 9 based on the size of the geographical area. But they did just scrape relegation the season before last. But they haven't really been, since they got promoted back in, was it 2013-14, they've just sort of been a bit average and around about a bit mediocre. So it'll be interesting to see how they adjust back down to Tier 10 now. I think that they if they're doing things rightly, they could make an impact. Wembley have also been relegated to Tier 10. I think not they don't play at the Wembley Stadium. That would be fairly ironic and funny, but they also struggled last season, 16th in Combined Counties League Premier Division North. I mean, the traditional rivals, ironically, have been Harrowborough, Edgware Town, and Wealdstone. And if you know about where Wealdstone are now, they've really sort of moved on well out of the league. Wembley have been in the Isthmian League before. They were in the second tier of the Isthmian League for 21 seasons, close to almost getting to the Premier Division on 2 occasions during the 1980s. And they even played in Wembley Stadium, but actually before in the Middlesex Senior Charity Cup final. I mean, in that competition, they beat Brentford. So they're certainly a team which have been going places. I mean, during their team at one point, they had Ray Parler and Martin Keown as some of the players to have. But David Seaman as a goalkeeping coach. They certainly had some big names back in the day. Terry Venables was a technical advisor back in 2012. They certainly had some big names to don the shirt. They've even reached the first round of the FA Cup back in 1980-81. So in a sense, it's a tale of where they've sort of drifted off since that point, which I think is It's almost sad to see, but I'm sure they'll be able to get back at some point. But look, notice how they've got 24 teams in their league, compared to the two leagues above, which have got 20. Not many teams at this level got 24 teams, and there's some teams at this level have only got 16. Or is it 40? It's the ones in the Southwest Peninsula. It's ridiculous. Not that they've got 24 teams in it, but the fact that they've got 24 teams all competing for two leagues above. If they were to do a reverse, almost, the 2014 being in tier 9 and then two tier 10 ones being the North and the South, I think that would make a bit more sense. Now, you can leave your thoughts down below in the comments about whether you agree with me in what I'm saying with this. But I think it makes more sense if you flip it around that way. So that there's less concentration of clubs in that Greater London region. On to the Eastern Counties League, and we'll talk about the Essex League at the sort of same segment. So the Eastern Counties League Premier Division, only two changes to the lineup. We've got Haverhill Rovers, who are now back in the East at Tier 9, which I'm not surprised to see, to be honest. They were in Tier 9 for a while. I think they were in it in 2007-8, but till 2022-23. So they were in it for quite a while, and I imagine that they're going to be able to stay at this level for a while now. They're back. I don't like their logo. It's an incredibly boring logo, but alas, I'm not judging them based on the logo. I think realistically we could probably see a mid-table finish would mark a success for Haverhill. In terms of relegation, Ipswich Wanderers are back. Is anyone particularly surprised? They had to quickly dip into their players' budget to upgrade the stadium 2 seasons back. They just about managed to survive due to expanding the league size in the Isthmian League North. They were in 17th last season, and this season just gone by, they have alas been relegated. I think you look at the leap and bounds that they have come. In 2020-21, they were in the Eastern Counties League Division 1 South, and only got promoted from that one in 2021-22. Very good, to be fair. They won 23 consecutive league games. But there was always going to be a ceiling, wasn't there, of a club like Ipswich. They both seem to have managed to achieve phenomenally back-to-back promotions, both teams in Ipswich, which is a commendable stat in itself. But no, now that Ipswich are back in, or Ipswich Wanderers are back in Tier 9, they can refocus on building up the playing squad. Now that their ground is guaranteed, we know, to be Tier 8 level. On to the Essex Senior League Premier Division. They've had a bit more change. Basildon United have come down. Basildon United being in Tier 9 is borderline criminal in terms of how big Basildon as a town is. They are around a population of 115,000, and to say that they're now going to be in Tier 9, I think is a pretty poor fall off from grace. They were in mid-table last season from Isthmian League North, and they were there since they've been around in that level since 2018-19. I imagine they'll probably get an instant return. They are one of them teams that, based on the population of a town, they should be doing much better. But alas, they don't. There is a Basildon town, which could be the reason why, but they're in the league below, and I don't think they're very well supported. Hackney Wick have made a return, getting promoted to Tier 9. When I first started sort of looking at the non-league picture, they were in Tier 9, and that was back in 2017-18 when they finished bottom of the Essex Senior League, and have sort of been in Tier 10 since, but have finally seen themselves return. I mean, they've been sort of all over the place, so to speak. They're currently ground sharing at Witham's ground. They have historically been at the old Spotted Dog ground. They were ground sharing with Haringey Borough at one point. So I don't think they really have an ascribed home, which could be an issue trying to draw in a fan base. So I do think they may struggle at this level. Harwich and Harwich, and Parkinston. I got told that my pronunciation was wrong by somebody. Harwich and Parkinston. I mean, they've been slowly growing back, haven't they, and doing things the proper way. I think they were at one point at this level. They were in Division 2 of the Isthmian League at one point. I mean, they've been in the FA Cup several times before. I mean, they've been in the Amateur Cup back when the FA Trophy was called the Amateur Cup back in the 1950s at Wembley Stadium, and a crowd of 100,000 when they lost 6-0 to a team called Pegasus from Oxford. So that's a little fact for you in Harwich, is history. And it must be said that I can feasibly see them being a team that are gonna, if they have the opportunity to stay in this league, I feel they've got to grasp it with both hands, but they've got the history to make up for it. Sporting Bengal United, back to Tier 9, having been promoted to Tier 8. Literally last season, so it's only one season. They managed to be in the Isthmian League North Division. I'm not sure it's too surprising, to be honest. I think it was too quick, rapidly ascending. I mean, they're a very commendable club. They do a lot of work with the community. They have actually played against the Bangladesh national team before. And they were the first Asian team to play in the FA Cup, along with London All People Sports Association. So yeah, it's very much a team which I think is based in the community, and I know a lot of them are. They always have quite a cool kit design as well. So yeah, I mean, we'll see if they can manage to do well back at Tier 9. Tower Hamlets, on the other hand, have been promoted. I mean, they're now known as Seoul Tower Hamlets, but let's be honest, they're always going to be Tower Hamlets to me. That was because they recently underwent a renaming after they merged with a team called Seoul Football Club. And that merge clearly paid off as they got promoted in their first season. And they're a weird one, Tower Hamlets, because they were in the Southern Counties East League Division 1 last season, which is normally the one which is covering the teams around about the Kent area, and not normally the one which will get promoted to the Essex League, but they have done so. I mean, they're the one which, if they were to move, or if there was a team to move, they would be the one to move, so to speak. I mean, I'm not brimming with confidence with this team. They also play at the Milan Stadium, which ironically is where Sporting Bengal United play. But yeah, I just don't feel they're the most well-attended club, and I just don't think they'll be able to generate enough atmosphere, and I think they will return back down to Tier 10. Talking about Tier 10, we've got the two Eastern Counties tier 10 ones. There's FC Clacton, Nigel Farage's constituency, and alas, they have also been relegated. So they are a club which have had highs and lows. They've been in the Southern League in the past, back in the 1950s, and they were in the Premier Division at one point, even reaching the first round of the FA Cup at that time, losing to Southend. But yeah, they've sort of, since that point, never really hit them heights again. And now they were gradually they've gradually sort of been drifting over the last fair few seasons now. They're in the Essex Senior League, which was always going to be a league which will be a struggle. There's so many teams in that which are strong teams, so to speak. But I don't think anyone really expected them to be relegated. But they were 17th the season before last, so I think maybe the time has come round for Clacton to be relegated. We've had a few new teams in the league for this league. You got Halesworth Town, Kings Park Rangers, and Wroxham Rezzies. Wroxham Rezzies, obviously, reserve team of Wroxham. Not really bothered about them. I will just mention now, I have never been a fan of reserve teams being in tier 10. I think they take up a space. When you look at it, they've replaced Swaffham. And I'd rather see a actual team with an actual ground, which is their own, being in that level than a reserve team. Halesworth, though, great run team by the sounds of things that I've seen over on social media. And that this is the highest they've ever played. Kings Park Rangers, you've just straight up nicked the name of Queen's Park Rangers, haven't you? Yeah, Haverhill Borough and Needham Market reserve teams have avoided relegation. See, this is one of them things. If you're going to bring a reserve team up, put a reserve team down. But no, Needham Market reserves were reprieved, whereas Swaffham got relegated. A team which has also been relegated, but this time from the league above, is Long Melford, which I don't think is a surprise. They finished 17th out of 19th last season. And they sort of have been, they're not known for being the highest end team. They have spent the last fair few years, I suppose, at that tier 9 level. I just think over the last 3 or 4 seasons now, they've not really shown themselves to be of the standard. And obviously, the season before when we just had, they just evaded relegation, and now they've paid the consequences in a sense and have now been officially confirmed relegated. On to the Eastern Counties League South. We've got FC Romania down, which when I first saw these things, I was genuinely flabbergasted that FC Romania had fallen so much. Now, if you don't know about this, but FC Romania were in the Southern League Division 1 Central in 2022-23. And since then have been on a sort of downward thing. But they did finish 5th last season, as in the season before last. But clearly that wasn't enough and have been relegated again. They've got all the infrastructure there to be a Southern League club. And obviously they're mainly they're run by Inuit Vintila, who is both the owner and the manager, which is always going to be a bit of an issue in my opinion. the team is made from Romanian immigrants historically. I don't know if that's still the case, but that was certainly the case when they first founded. I mean, they are a team which I think are in serial decline at the moment and need to find something to freshen it up. And maybe that's actually stepping back from being the manager, Mr. Vintilla. Two teams were reprieved relegation: Newbury Forest and Southend Manor. A team called Philip United got promoted. I don't know if he's got anything to do with Prince Philip, but he just seems it's just a bit of an odd name of a club. Stansted have been relegated. And talking about Stansted, more known for its airport, I think that's fair to say. But they have reached the final of the FA Vase in 1983-84. That's a bit of their history, but they've been mainly around about that sort of tier 9/10 sort of level. But one time they could have got promoted to tier 8. They were denied because of their ground not being good enough. So, I mean, Dwight Gale actually used to play for Stansted. The more you know. Obviously, he's just retired from football at the end of his season. I mean, I'm pretty certain he's just been at a random club. Yeah, he's just been at Hibernian after he left Derby. And also a player called Alfie Potter. Do you remember him? Well, he was also at Stansted at one point during his career. I think it might have been during his youth career. Most notably for his 5 years spell at Oxford United, I'd say. So yeah, he now plays for Oxford City by the sounds of things, although that could be an unupdated Wikipedia page. I mean, there was also Gary Hart, if you're slightly older, who played for Brighton for just about 13 years, 373 appearances, a striker who scored 45 goals for the Seagulls. And he was signed from Stansted for £1,000 and a set of tracksuits. So yeah, very interesting story behind that one. On to the Hellenic League. Just seen Martin Ryan's comment of driving Miss Daisy, lol. Don't know what I mean. Sorry, mate. So the Hellenic League's got Cinderford Town and Cribs coming down. Cinderford Town in I mean, they're a team which one of them classic teams from the Southern League era that I remember. They were in the Premier Division of the Southern League back in 2016-17, but were relegated. But they did do well since that relegation, having been in some playoff finals at that point. But admittedly, in 2022-23, they were also in the Hellenic League, but they won the playoff final to get promoted. So they're in between the sort of two at the moment. Seem to be potentially a yo-yo club on our hands, which, alas, I don't think Cinderford would want. Cribs are a team that I can't stand. I mean, nothing for fans or anything like that. It's just, why is a football club named after a flipping shopping centre? Like, they were formed as Sun Life Assurance as the works team for Sun Life. You know, which is a financial services, mainly for insurance. You may say, if you've ever seen daytime TV, they'll always talk about Sun Life. And then they became XAA, and then at one point they became Cribs Friends Life, and it's just a whole weird team. They've mainly spent most of their recent history in the Hellenic League. Although, admittedly, a season before one we've just had, they were in third in the Southern League Division 1 South. So, not entirely sure what happened, whether wheels fell off and they're now back in the Hellenic League. But alas, that is what has happened. So, also meant the reserve team has gone down with them. Ironically enough, actually, for a number of years, the ground of Cribs was used as the training base for Bristol Rovers. So there you go. On to Droitwich, Spa and Halen, who got promoted. I don't like Halen's logo. I think it's incredibly unoriginal to have a football just plastered on your logo and pretty much saying, "Yep, that's it." The ground is also just called the Halen Centre. It's all a bit cliche. I do like the fact they're called the Armadillos, though. They put a nice armadillo onto their badge instead. I mean, their changing room. Well, initially when they used to play at King's Western House, they had a changing room which was a Nissan hut, which is one of them barracks. You know, when you typically think of barracks from like World War One time, it was one of them. So, I mean, Halen have spent some time before at this level in 2021, they were transferred from the Western League Premier Division to, after basically being there since 2004-05, to the Hellenic League, but they were then relegated that immediate season. I mean, whether they will struggle again to adjust to Hellenic League action, they were in the Western League Division 1 last season, and I think that could be part of the issue, is where Halen is located in terms of geographical wise. They're in that western side of Bristol, which can mean that some of the teams that they have to get to could be slightly difficult. But I don't think it should be too much of an issue, personally, because they do have, is that the M5, which goes down to Bristol? I'm pretty certain it is. And they're not that far away from that, so they can just bomb up to most of their teams which are in their league. Droitwich Spa, on the other hand, I think this is the highest they've ever been. So it'll be interesting to see how they adjust to playing at this level. I mean, question marks will be over why they're not in the Midland League. And I think that's a fair question to ask. The ground was actually opened in 2022. Yes, that recently, by Kevin Keegan himself. And because before that they spent times ground sharing at Stourport Swifts, and just basically anywhere apart from Droitwich. Last season they also had their best FA Vars performance, reaching the third round. So I think things are looking up for the Salt Men. I'll be interested to see how well they do in the Hellenic League. I still personally think they should be in the Midland League. There's a bit of things that I have with the Midland League being too small, in essence. I don't think it should be 18 teams. I think it should be something like 20, and some of them teams being in Cheshire is a joke, when they should be going and picking up teams like Droitwich Spa, which are much more Midland based, or Pershore Town. But alas, on to the Division 1. A new team we got is Ulster Town, or Ulster Town. I'm pretty certain it's pronounced Ulster Town. And they're in Worcestershire. No, Warwickshire, sorry, but they're near Worcestershire. In the lovely Cotswolds, a sort of border area, just on the edge. Weirdly, they were playing in the Herefordshire League Premier Division, despite being in Warwickshire. Something amiss for me in that regard, because they transferred over from Midland League Division 2. I mean, kudos to them, they got promoted in a sense. So they've done what they've needed to do. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they bring to tier 10. I think it's always nice to see new teams, isn't it? Brimscombe and Thrupp have been relegated. I think that was almost quite a predictable relegation. Purely on the basis that, well, actually, I don't know if that one was predictable. Sorry, I mean, they were in Division 1 of the Hellenic League back in 2010-11, but they have been at tier 9 since they finished 15th the season before last, out of 20. So definitely that lower half of the table in danger of being relegated. And they have sort of been on the slide slightly. So yeah, I'm just interested to see how they do this season. Carterton were reprieved, interestingly. Now the reason for that is actually that there was because of Southern's resignation and Killington Reserves being relegated on the basis that, well, essentially their main team got relegated, which means that they couldn't stay at the level they were, same as was the case with Cribs. Malmesbury Victoria were relegated, and I think they've been at this level before, I'm pretty certain. Yeah, they were literally promoted the season before last via the playoffs. Spent most of their history at this level, having been promoted from the Wiltshire League in 2014-15, and basically being in that tier 10 bit ever since, apart from last season. So yeah, that's not surprising. Newton Town and Wellington also reprieved. Tem United, Resi's team, are promoted for just make sure that there is got to be some balance in that reserves thing. Ridiculous, because for some reason they have 19 teams in this one, which is a really odd number to have. I have 18 or I have 20. Don't have 19. That's just a really odd number. Woodford United also got promoted from Woodford House in Northamptonshire, which again, got a question. Why is the team from Northamptonshire being placed in the Hellenic League? You would really think that they would be in the United Counties League, possibly, or the Spartan South Midlands League, somewhere over in that direction, as opposed to mainly travelling to the Cotswolds. That's for me an absolutely baffling move. I mean, Woodford United, if you recall, if you're old enough, back in the day, were in the Division 1 of the Southern League from 2005-6 to 2006-7 to 2012-13, but they voluntarily relegated themselves to the United Counties League Division 1, and then continued their sort of falling through free fall. So good to see them back, and hopefully, even though they have been cruelly placed in the Hellenic League, they will continue to continue their revival onwards. Midland League Premier Division only got 18 teams, as I already said. I think it's a bit of a ridiculous notion. So the teams promoted: Abbey Harton United from the sort of Greater Stoke region. They did a great job in the playoffs against Stafford Town. I don't know if they've ever been this high before. They were in the Northwest Counties League Division 1 South, which is just increasingly just becoming the feeder league of the Midland League at this point. But they have been in Division 1, I believe, of the Midland League. Oh no, they're not. They were in the Staffordshire County League and won that in 2016-17, and basically have been at that Northwest Counties one ever since. So this is the highest level they've played at. So again, another interesting team to see how they adjust. Cotton Green from Tamworth are also now in Tier 9. I mean, it's definitely a team which has been progressing over the last few years. They were in 2021-22 promoted from the Midland League Division 2 or Tier 11 to Division 1. They then finished last season in 5th in Division 1 and won the playoffs. And this will be their highest ever league position in the pyramid, because they've never been this high of a pyramid before. So I'm loving to see. I'm loving the fact that we're having new teams coming onto my radar in a sense. I mean, I know down to Tier 10 before, but just seeing them improve in a sense. Hanley Town versus Abbey Holton United will be a great derby. Hanley Town got relegated, and I don't think they've ever actually played each other, because Hanley are a team with strong heritage that really shouldn't be where they are. They were in the Northern Premier League Division 1 West last season. The season before that finished mid-table in 13th. They were at that Northern Premier League place since they won the Midland League Premier Division title in 2021-22. Questions, alas, will be they're one of them border teams, aren't they? I think of between the Midland League and the Northwest Counties League. And if they were in Tier 10, they would be in the Northwest Counties League, Division 1 South. So, I mean, there's got to be something to. I mean, they're probably more thankful that they are in the Midland Division, the Midland League. But you got to say that long term, the way that they're going with two teams in the Northwest Counties League, in Tier 10, it's difficult because it means that all the teams that are getting promoted are having to be moved into Midland League and having to go south to Birmingham, as opposed to like we'll talk about it now actually, because why have not Winsford United were a team which were promoted, and they a few seasons ago decided to voluntarily relegate themselves because they couldn't afford the commute down to the Birmingham region on a regular basis. Clearly, they've put that issue aside and decided that, yes, actually, it will be better to be promoted and suck it up playing in the Midland League. I mean, they do have a few nearby games, Whitchurch, Alport, most notably. But yeah, 1874 Northwich as well. So it's beginning to be more and more northern focusing, which is in a sense great for the teams in the Northwest, but it also isn't, because it means that a lot more travel is involved. Lye Town also got relegated. We'll go over them just so I don't unnecessarily annoy someone and hack them off. They are, sort of went up, and then sort of went down. Why I say that is that they were in 7th from Northern Premier League Midland Division last season, just missing out on the playoffs, and now they're coming back down. And it wasn't that long ago they were promoted to the Midland Football League. See, this is ridiculous because there's 22 teams in the Midland Football League Division 1. Equal it out and just have 20 in both. So let's start with AFC North Kilworth in Leicestershire. I don't know a huge deal about this team. I'm guessing they're new to this step, considering they don't have a Wikipedia page yet. Someone get onto that. And they'll probably be excited to play against some of the teams again, which they had historical matches against, such as Alexton and New Parks, which have been reprieved relegation. Wednesfield have also been reprieved relegation. Tipton Town, though, have been relegated, which does touch me because my family is from Tipton originally. I still got my granddad who lives there, and there's certainly. I don't think they were. I just think they've not been promoted, but they've definitely ran it far. Knoll, which if you don't know is just outside of the sort of Solihull region, or within the Solihull borough anyway, and are historically quite a big club in that sort of region. Why I say that is that they were in the Midland Combination, which was sort of a Midland Combination, Midland Alliance merged to form a Midland Football League, and they were well in that sort of regularly up there in that Midland Combination Premier Division. So regularly at actually the tier 9 of what it would be now. They reached the 5th round of the FA Vars back in 1981-82. And they finished second in the Midland League Division 2 in this season just gone by. Sorry. And so they were the team which had opted to be promoted. And I'm sure every single fan of Knoll is very excited. OGM Black Country, in a sense, is step back for the team, which is in a sense quite a disappointment. But sometimes these things do happen. Why do I say that? Well, because they were relegated. They finished 8th last season on 49 points, quite an impressive season. But they, because of their ground requirements, I believe, got relegated back to Midland League Division 1. It's just ridiculous. If you're only allowing one season to people be able to get their ground up to scratch, it's too quick, FA. It's too quick. And over 2 or 3 seasons, just to sort of embed and gradually think, because there is a big gulf of class between tier 10 and tier 9 in terms of ground requirements. Now, you can prohibit them, ban them from reaching the playoffs or whatever. That's fine. But as long as you actually allow them in the league, like a couple of seasons where they could just stabilize and enable themselves to build new facilities that they need, and they can improve as opposed to mandatorily slapping a relegation back onto them, no matter irrelevant to their position, and seeing them therefore having to go back to where they were. And then what's the point in playing because they know they can't get promoted anyway? On to the Northwest Counties League. The 24-team Northwest County League Premier Division has got Atherton, Laburnum Rovers back. This is an interesting... Well, I've not heard of Atherton, Laburnum Rovers in time. I mean, I don't think many people have, to be honest. They were in the playoffs the season before last. They finished as runners-up, but lost in the finals to South Liverpool. But they were in this Northwest Counties League before they were relegated in 2011-12. They were in the FA Vars semi-finals in 1993-94. They were in the Northern Premier League for 3 seasons during that 1990s spell. So yeah, they've certainly had history up there, but now they're sort of back on their way down again. But they're going back up, so they're going back up again, as in back to their building. I'm digging myself in a hole. They're going back the trajectory that they will want to be going. There you go. And maybe happy days will yet again come to Everton as they continue their celebrations. City of Liverpool being relegated. Now, I don't know whether that's because of how well that Liverpool have been doing this season. Everton's last season at Anfield could have reduced attendances. But they've been in the Northwest They were in the Northwest Counties between 2016 and 2019. But the Northern Premier League, certainly, I think it's been more than their level. They've reached the third round of the FA Trophy before, by beating Buxton in 2023-24, and they went on against Hartlepool in the National League. So yeah, they're great, sort of, in terms of all of that sort of thing. The manager's Andy Owens, who is also a player for them at the moment. But I mean, he was a regular sort of in the non-league scene. He's sort of been everywhere, a right journeyman. So I don't think he'll stay long. I mean, a few seasons ago, the club was signing Kevin Ellison, who now plays with Vauxhall Motors, who Morecambe fans will most likely remember him from the years 2011 to 2020. Made 352 appearances for the club. Certainly a household name in the northwest region of England, having also done a pretty good job with Chester City in the past as well, and has prepared for Tranmere Rovers. On to the Euxton Villa, which got promoted. I believe they've played at this level before, but I could be wrong about that one. They've not. I think most of the time they've spent in Northwest Counties League Division 1 North. And actually last season was also their best performance in the FA Vars. And it's a club going in the right direction. A record attendance was on the 3rd of March 2024 with 618 fans, with playing up against Darwin. But a great historical club. So yeah, Euxton Villa definitely going in the right direction at the moment. Just hope their facilities can keep them up with that. Wythenshawe got relegated. Wythenshawe Town, ironically, were reprieved, which will not appeal to the tribal loyalties of Wythenshawe fan bases. They got relegated last season, but I think it was always likely to be a bit of a stretch too far. Let's be honest. I mean, their fates between them and Wythenshawe Town were sort of interlocked for a while. Yeah, Wythenshawe were in the Northwest Counties Division 1 South in 2022-23, earning promotion. They need to make sure that they don't suddenly fall down a trapdoor and end up all the way back where they started. It's from the movie The Sun Hat. Yeah, The Sun Hat's great, to be fair. On to the Northwest Counties League Division 1 North. Cheadle Heath nomads have been laterally switched across. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, Northwest Counties League First Division South at the moment is or Division 1 South rather, absolutely mental that they've having to switch across Cheadle Heath. Cheadle Heath, if you don't know where that is sort of an Altonshire region. You normally would say that actually the middle of Manchester area was sort of a traditional divide. So to see teams in the southern half of Greater Manchester being moved into that northern half is going to be a difficult one. Colne have been relegated again. Now, Colne are in the Northern Premier League. I don't know. Was it in the Northern Premier League? Premier Division? They were in the was it? They're in the playoffs, certainly, for the Premier Division. No, it was they were in the playoffs of the Premier for the Premier Division in 2018-19, but they failed. They were also in the playoffs for that in 2016-17. And but in 2022-23 they've got relegated from Northern Premier League Division 1 West, and then this season just gone by, they've been relegated. They've been on a really downward trajectory over the last few years. They went up and then they're back down again. Fulwood Amateur have been promoted. They'll be an interesting one to see. Not the Fulwood in Sheffield, the Fulwood in Lancashire. There is, of course, both. And this is also not to be confused because there was a football team from that Fulwood in Sheffield called Fulwood Association Football Club, who won the South Yorkshire Amateur League in 1938-39 and 1947. And they had a Phoenix club itself called, or a different club as well called Fulwood FC, who also competed in the FA Amateur Club. Neither of them are related. This Fulwood Amateur one is firmly within Lancashire. Garstang have been reprieved. Squires Gate have been relegated. I mean, I don't think I'm too surprised about that one, considering they're in a Blackpool region, which has quite a lot of non-league clubs around about a similar level. They finished 23rd out of 24th the season before last, so probably should have been relegated in that season, but weren't. But yeah, I think it provides a good chance to rebuild for Squires Gate and try and rekindle some of their magic that they had back in a historical era. On to the Northwest Counties League Division 1 South. There's been 3 promotions of Hormond, WSB, and Woolton and Telford Town. I'll start with Hormond, which I remember being actually higher in a sense. They took a fair few steps back to go to the Shropshire County League, which was always going to be a bit of a risk. I mean, the technically ground share was Shrewsbury's Academy, because they were in the Premier Division of the Midland League in 2021-22 and got relegated for that. And then they got relegated the following season after that. So they sort of were on a downward spiral, and it seems like the feeder league was a good place to stabilise and rebuild and come back up, and they have done that now. WSB Woolton, or MSB Woolton, sorry, team based in Liverpool on a all-weather pitch. So we'll see how that affects them. They're used to it, but other teams not necessarily always are. I mean, when you're in the Northwest, you know it's going to rain a lot, so having an all-weather pitch is always going to be a positive. Telford Town, they used to be known as Wellington Amateurs back historically, or the AMIs, or AMS as well. But in 2024, they got taken over after by former Hendersford Town owner Hayden Dando, and he renamed it Telford Town, and have been. It's been almost an instant success, I suppose you could say. Returning to Tier 10 after they were when West Midlands Regional League was at Tier 10. They were in that. So yeah, it's good to see them back at this level. I don't really like what they've done with the logo, but so be it. Their stadium's actually called the Key Worker Nation Stadium, which is quite nice. I don't know if that was because it's just been not edited since COVID or what, but no, it'd be great to see them. Wolverhampton Casuals are awesome. This is what I mean. Like, they are definitely a team which should be based in the Midlands division, but are not. As well as Wolverhampton Sporting Community being reprieved along with Foley-Mere. So there's going to be like a sort of Wolverhampton derby, so to speak. Wolverhampton Casuals, I don't think it's a surprise to see them back at Tier 10. I think anyone could have told you that was going to happen in not long time. They finished 16th out of 18th this season before the one we've just had, and they were only promoted because of their results over COVID. I mean, they don't actually play in Wolverhampton. They're playing a village called Featherstone, which is just in South Staffordshire. In a sense, it's a bit of a trek from the centre of Wolverhampton. On to the Northern Counties East Football League Premier Division. Farsley Celtic, as we sort of talked about last video a little bit, have been demoted 4 steps from when they should have been in the Northern Premier League. They got their licence refused to play in Tier 7 and Tier 8, and so now in Tier 9. Got a huge rebuilding task to do. I don't know if the official ground share had been confirmed yet, because obviously they were at Buxton last season. So I don't know if they're back at the Citadel. And if so, what's happening in terms of the 3G pitch, which was due to be laid. The ground was in a complete wreck from the aerial footages that we got seen in the local media. So yeah, I mean, I wish the best for Farsley Celtic to rebuild. They're in a right stressful situation at the moment, and I wouldn't envy any of the managers who have to try and turn that wreck around. Horbury Town were promoted to Tier 9 for, I believe, the first time in their history. They've been really growing as well at the moment. They're in the West Yorkshire League for a while before getting promoted in 2022 to Tier 10. They then, in their first season, narrowly missed out on promotion because of the playoffs, whereas they're promoted this season just gone by. So they're really a team which is just growing right now, and is absolutely great to see. Liversedge have been relegated, which marks the latest woe in a fair few seasons of regression for the club. And they will now be playing against their. They'll have different rivalries, and traditionally it used to be teams like Ossett and Brighouse, so they'll have to make do with some other local rivalries instead this season. But yeah, why I was mentioning about the regression, so to speak, is that they were in the Northern Premier League Premier Division in 2022-23. Admittedly, it was only for one season, having been promoted in 2021-22. But the season before last, they were 10th, and then this season being relegated back to the Northern Counties East League. I mean, they were in the Northern Counties East League in 2020-21, so in a sense, it's returning to where they were. In other regards, it does mark regression, because instead of continuing going up that heights, they sort of come back down again. Sheffield FC, the oldest club in the world, are in the Northern Counties East. No one's really surprised about that, are they? And Hallam, their rivals, are taking their place. It's been a long time since Sheffield have been in this league, and they'll be hoping to get promotion at the first attempt of asking. But I mean, if Farsley Celtic get themselves together, you'd fully anticipate them to have a right go at it this season. And so it may not be as easy as it's made out. I mean, Quickly Athletic get quite a lot of academy players coming through as well. I know they've got a good academy that's set up there. So it remains to be seen. Wombwell Town have been promoted. I think this is the first time this iteration of a team from Wombwell have been this high, because they were only formed back in 2018 because a team of their original name had folded in 2000. And they've gone from tier 13 in 2018-19 to tier 12 for 2 seasons because of COVID. Then their third season, they won that, They haven't got promoted again. They've just been getting promotions after promotions, and they just keep on chipping away. Their manager and chairman is Carl Rose, which some Scarborough fans might remember for his 26 goals and 65 appearances between 2001 and 2004. Or Lee RMI, remember that team. He scored 18 goals in 20 appearances during the 2004-5 season. And then he sort of went missing for, or sort of has been now the person, not supposed to be missing because he's here, but we probably shouldn't be giving him the airtime, considering what he's done in the past. If you don't know about that, do just Google Carl Rose and you'll see. I don't personally condone anything. Sorry. Yes, I don't condone any of the things that he has done, and I'm not sure why Woolwell Town are actually associated with a man like that. But some people can turn their lives around, I suppose. Even though it was an incredibly disgusting thing he did in the past. Maybe rehabilitation has done him wonders. We'll see. But I'm not going to talk about him anymore because personally I might get into trouble. Northern Counties East Football League Division 1. Appleby Frodingham were reprieved from their relegation. Teams promoted: Crowell Colts from Lincolnshire. That isn't particularly surprising, to be honest. They're a team which have played at this level before. Have they played at this level? We might not have done, actually. But they're certainly a team which have the facilities at Godmer Road. And have won the Lincolnshire FA County Junior Cup in the last 2 seasons. Successive. It is a second successive promotion as well. So they're on another club on a rise at the moment. Doncaster City. They're a very new club, by the way. They were only formed in 2022, and they're now ground sharing at a welfare ground in Armthorpe with Armthorpe Welfare. Doncaster City have managed to get. They were second in 2023-24, and have now gone one better and won the league this time round. So it was a really interesting team. I don't know how much you've actually followed it. It was established by Willie Mackay, who is a very well-known footballing agent, who tried to who worked with Doncaster Rovers, trying to do an experiment sort of thing, and brought in some interesting players, including ex-Real Madrid. They were linked, with ex-Real Madrid midfielder Mahamadou Diarra. But they brought in some other questionable players, which didn't really work. But so he's now sort of trying to do that with he tried to do that with this club, and is arguably doing it to success. The manager Jason Blunt, who had another player who with a bit of Scarborough heritage, 80 appearances for Scarborough from 2001 to 2003. He's the manager there. But I think the most notable thing I want to say is they had tried to apply for the Scottish FA Cup, or the Scottish Cup, right? Now, the claim is that Doncaster was a part of the Scotland as of a Treaty of Durham, which was signed between Stephen of England and David of Scotland, which gave the city to Scotland, and that has never officially been withdrawn. I mean, they can keep. If Scotland goes independent, they can take Doncaster, because I don't think any of us want it in England. But But how bizarre would that be? Seeing like Doncaster City playing up against Celtic. It would have just not made any sense, would it? But they again reached national news because they've actually brought in some big name players that I've actually heard of. Ross McCormack and Wes Houlihan. They also brought in Charlie Mulgrew as well. All of these absolutely huge players back in the day, putting on the shirt of Doncaster City. It's absolutely ridiculous. And so it's little wonder why they're doing so well. And I will be not surprised to see them going from strength to strength at this point now. Gould got relegated. That was, I think, maybe a bit of a long-term coming on, actually. Alas, they finished 18th the season before last. And they have sort of been struggling for the last few seasons now. They finished bottom of the Northern Premier League Division 1 North in 2017-18. They were second from bottom in 2022-23, but were reprieved because of Hemsworth Miners' welfare. In essence, they've had a very poor recent history, and they're going to need to try and rebuild at Tier 10. Leeds UFCA, I don't know if that's associated with university or whether it's something or an academy team. It's confused me a great deal because a lot of the forums seem to not even understand who it is either. So whoever they are, it'll be very interesting to see how they adapt. Route 1 Rovers were laterally switched from the North West Counties League. About time, to be honest. And I have no complaints with that lateral switch. They are in Yorkshire, after all, so should be playing in a league which have Yorkshire teams in it. Winterton Rangers were relegated. And I think they're actually ironically called the MKM Stadium as well, which is the same name as Hull Stadium. They're managed by Lee Ridley. 100 appearances for Scunthorpe United. He came from Scunthorpe's Academy. Between 2000 and 2007, he made 100 appearances. And I mean, during the 2010-11 season, he was a relatively regular for Grimsby as well. He's clearly a very big name in that sort of North Lincolnshire area because he's also turned out for Gainsborough Trinity and Grantham before. So yeah, that's an interesting one. In terms of what they've been through, well, they have recently been managed by former Hull City and Wolverhampton player Peter Daniel. And actually, Hull City's reserve teams do use their pitch. So I think, yeah, they've reached the quarterfinals of the FA Vars back in 1976-77. They won the Phillips Six-a-side Floodlight Cup, beating Newcastle Blue Star in the final. They've been in the fourth qualifying round of the FA Cup in 1971-72 and 1976-77. So in the 1970s, they had their best sort of history, but since then haven't really managed to hit that same heights, really. And now they can't even get into the FA Cup because they're in Tier 10. Halfway stage of this video, which is a bit irritating. These always last longer than I think. Northern League Division 1, I've got two new teams, Horden Community Welfare and Thornaby. I can talk a bit about Horden Community Welfare, something I've actually seen them play this season. I saw them away at Jarrah. And you know what? I thought they got solid fans. They brought their flags. They were actually sharing a stand with the Jarrah fans, and it got a bit heated at the end of full time. There was a horrendous tackle by one of the Horden players against the Jarrah's goalkeeper, a really bad tackle, and it all spilled over into a bit of a punch-up amongst the fans at the end of the game. It was all a bit of aggro, and I've never seen anything like it in Tier 10 before. But actually, over the course of the game, it was really good football to watch by both teams. And I think Horden will do well in the Northern League Division 1. Thornaby, well, they reached national headlines for controversial reasons for disbanding all their women's team last season. I think they are now since back. But they've been in the Northern League Division 1 before. They know what it's about. So, yeah, I think they'll do just fine in this league. The Northern League Division 2, we've got AFC New Biggin. I've got family friends who live in New Biggin. It's a wonderful coastal resort. And it's interesting that they've replaced rivals Bedlington Terriers, so to speak, in the league. I might see if I can get up there at some point. Maybe do a few shorts for it. We'll see. It is a bit of a trek at the same time. But it'll be interesting to see what they've done up there, adding some new stands and stuff like that. A lot of developments to get this promotion. Durham United are also another team promoted. There were several teams from the Durham area which could have been promoted, but actually Durham United do play in Durham. So it's great to see a team back in the sort of more defining FA leagues, I suppose you could say, not county leagues, for a team which is based in the capital of the county. Durham City are continuing to experience a whole trojan of different issues going on at the moment in there. But Durham United were sort of seized upon that opportunity and have well and truly managed to secure themselves fairly into Northern League Division 2. They have the Durham women team as well, who are actually quite a strong team playing at their ground. So yeah, it's great work to see a Durham team back at this level. CM Red Star have been relegated. I don't think that was a particularly surprising thing based on some of the last few seasons. They've sort of gradually been drifting further and further towards relegation zone. And since they won promotion in 2014-15 from Division 2, they have sort of struggled a bit more. I think that's fair to say. And yeah, I think maybe going back down to Division 2 will help them with a reset. I mean, they've done well before at some points in the past in the Northern League Division 1 as well. Back in the year 2000, they came as runners-up. But alas, they then actually spiraled out of control in a sense and had to restart from all over again. And they've never quite hit them heights since. Towlaw Town have also been relegated. They have been on a horrendous season, and they were awful last season, finishing 19th as well. Let's be honest, they are really in the mud. And I'm therefore not surprised to see them in Tier 10. And long gone are them days when they were in the holding to a replay in the second round, Shrewsbury Town having progressed past Mansfield Town 5-1 in front of 2,500 fans back in the 1967-68 FA Cup. They were FA Vars runners-up in 1997-98 as well. They've definitely had some high moments in their history. They're definitely an interesting one to look at in a sense. But yeah, I mean, Chris Waddle played for the club at one point. So yeah, I mean, I think a relegation might actually, they'll either do it good, but I actually think they'll struggle again because you looked at Willington. Was it Willington? Was the name of the team that suffered back-to-back relegations. And actually, if I just, 3 relegations in a row. I don't know if it was 3, but it was certainly they certainly basically started spiraling out of control and sort of in a much similar style of pitch as well to Towlaw. So I feel like they could experience a similar fate. Southwest Peninsula League Premier Division West. The 3 teams have been reprieved. One of them ones has been Launceston, because essentially there needs to be 16 clubs as a minimum at that level. Alberton Villa got moved across, and Falmouth Town Reserves have been promoted. I'll go with the East one as well. The only change from that one is Ilfracombe Town have been relegated, and Ilminster Town have been promoted. Ilfracombe, in a sense, they were at one point, I believe, doing quite well for themselves, because they got promoted based on results over COVID, and just were sort of gradually looked like they were improving, but clearly not. And Ilminster Town, I mean, another. It's interesting, this one, because Ilminster, of course, are in Somerset, and an interesting promotion for them. They've been in Western League, obviously, before, back in the 1970s. Been in the FA Cup before as well. Being in the FA Vase 3rd round in 1978-79. So I don't mind that. But what I'm about to say is you've got the Western League, which already exists, and then you've got the Southwest Peninsula League, which is split into 2. Now, if you're struggling to fit 16 teams into it, and almost every season now, it seems like one of the teams from Cornwall is voluntarily getting themselves relegated, whether it's St Denis, Bodmin Town, all sorts of been sort of recently trying to voluntarily take a step back as opposed to continue their development forward. I mean, it's not due to travel costs, I don't believe, because it's actually one of the smallest geographical areas. It's just the cost for maintaining a ground at this level is extortionate. And there's probably only about half the teams in these these 2 leagues that could actually afford the long-term future of this. Merge the 2 together, and merge an institution and just call it the Southwest Peninsula League. It was originally called that. That was originally how it was until you decided to split it. There's already the Western League, which exists as well, so some of them can move laterally across from that. It just makes logical sense. Onto the Southern Combination. For the Premier Division, you've got Forest Row and Seaford Town promoted. Forest Row being a village in East Sussex. I really like their logo, to be fair. I don't think anybody was really expecting them to be promoted this season. They were 14th last season. They entered the Southern Combinations Division 1 after 2020-21 due to the COVID results. And yeah, it's fairly obvious to me that I mean, it doesn't please me that their ground shares with East Grinstead, but in a sense it was understandable as well, because they've never really had a home ground, and when they had, like, Forest Row in itself doesn't have a ground which is particularly feasible to stay at this level. But it'll be interesting to see if they manage to stay afloat and sort of keep competitive at this level, because I'm just fearful that they might struggle. Guernsey have been relegated to the Southern Combination, which I think is about time that they actually ended up in the Southern Combination, instead of putting them in the combined counties. Makes 0 sense. It never has done to me. So yeah, Guernsey being in this one, it makes sense because that's roughly where the Sussex-based ones are. Either them or either that or the Wessex League make more sense. Guernsey being relegated for me wasn't really something I was expecting because I thought, Guernsey had been a team that had been developing. They had spent several seasons in the Isthmian League at this point. They'd been in the semi-final of the FA Vase in 2012-13. They just looked like they were going from just sort of coasting along, mid-table sort of Isthmian. I think they weren't continuing the staggering heights of promotions after promotions that sort of failed because they failed in the playoffs in 2013-14. But they were still competitive, to say the least. And so, yeah, they're now seeming to be a bit more regressing. And I don't know whether that's because Jersey Bulls have provided a bit of a unhelpful competition, because they've been formed more recently. They're also having a lot of recent success. Neither of these teams are particularly, I imagine, long-term viable success because they're so isolated. Lancing have also been relegated. I don't think that was too much of a surprise to most people. Actually, to be fair, they did finish 6th in the Isthmian League South East for season before last, but they were promoted due to the results over COVID. And I think, was it 2022-23 where they were where were they in 2022-23? I'm just trying to find out. They were in the Southeast Division, sorry, that's why I'm looking at the wrong one. And they finished 13th, but it was only 5 points per relegation zone. And I think I was confusing the 2 seasons in my head because actually the season before that they did quite well. So they're a team which I reckon will probably be all right in the Southern Combination. I think we'll probably do quite a good job actually with their snitch look-alike logo, as in a Harry Potter snitch. So yeah, Seaford Town. I think this is the highest level Seaford Town have been at before. Another one of them classic coastal clubs at this level. They finished 2nd the season before last in the Southern Combination Division 1. Alas, though, losing out in the playoffs. And I mean, they've only recently sort of had ground improvements to enable them to play in Tier 10. But you look at it, the 2023-24 had the highest attendance, 931 versus Wick. And I think they're a club very much rowing in the right direction. And I'm excited to see how they're doing in this. I mean, it's a little surprise where they've been allocated for me. Stayning Town Community got relegated. Stayning, they were only promoted from the Southern Combination the season before last to their highest ever level. They clearly struggled to adjust to all them transportation, get an immediate relegation, and will probably just comfortably cruise around and just finish probably about mid-table at this Southern Combination Premier Division. Or Division 1, actually, isn't it? It's one of them weird ones. No, it is Premier Division. Southern Combination Division 1. We got some new teams. AFC Walcountians. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. Don't even know where they are. Don't know much about them. Jarvis Brook have been promoted as well. They definitely have the ability to be promoted. Hence why they were promoted. Yeah. Loxwood got relegated. The Magpies finished 16th the season before last in the Southern Combination. Relegation was confirmed after conceding a 94th minute goal in the final game of the season against Crowborough. Turns out Crows are just more dominant than Magpies. That's all I'm saying. But it was it's an interesting one for me, because that's obviously a really disappointing way to go down. But we sort of seen a return to Loxford, sort of where you would maybe expect them to be over their history. But admittedly, this season they had their best FA Cup performance. Actually managed to get through a round to get to the preliminary round. But yeah, I think maybe a rebuild is needed there. Ringmer have been promoted as well. They are a team which I do know a bit more about. They're a Phoenix club of a Ringmer FC who resigned from the Southern Combination League Division 1 in 2017-18 and were devolved in 2020. But they're Ringmer AFC, and so they're back. They were founded in 2020. I mean, they could have been admitted into the Southern Combination Division. Well, they were admitted, so to speak, in the Southern Combination Division 1 level we're now in 2022. But they decided that they were not going to opt for that promotion and remain in the Mid Sussex League. But it seems they've taken up a promotion this time round. So a new club in one sense, an old club in another. It remains to be seen how well they adapt. Saltdean United have been relegated. I mean, they finished 19th out of 20 in the Southern Combination Premier last season, but were reprieved. Admittedly, they did a decent job in 2021-22 when they finished second in the Southern Combination, but were denied promotion to the Yasmin League due to their ground. And since then, they sort of actually had to do a lot of they've sort of left scratching their head in a sense, because if their ground isn't up to scratch, well, do you spend a load of money plugging into improving grounds if so you reduce the playing squad, or do you just carry on investing in the playing squad and deal with the consequences when they come along? It's a difficult one. And I imagine Saltdean sort of tried to persuade the FA to be promoted regardless of their ground, because of the difficulty of the financial situation over COVID, meaning that they wouldn't be able to have a chance to improve their ground in the first place. And I mean, they've certainly got an argument, I would say, in that regard, is that it's ridiculous to expect clubs to be promoted and having all these ground requirements. And I can understand it if you're regularly receiving and filling out your ground or whatever, but if your stadium is half empty most of the time, you just got a load of seats which is just there for the capacity reasons alone, and it is a bit ridiculous. On to the Southern Counties East League. We're talking about Premier Division first with Faversham Strike Force. That's another video we're talking about a team from Faversham, I think. Last video we're talking about Faversham Town. This one I think is a bit more... it's almost slightly more impressive. They only first entered Tier 10 in 2021-22. Stuart Benfield has done a great job this season winning the Division 1 title. And they really are going on to greater things. They are now actually in Faversham, sharing with Faversham Town, having originally been with Rochester United. And we'll see where Faversham Strike Force continue, because they are now FA Vars players regular, but now they got a chance in the FA Cup as well, and they can only really develop from that point, surely. Hive Town were relegated. I mean, they have sort of been a bit average over the last few seasons. They were promoted in 2022-23 from the... no, so they weren't. They were in the playoffs, but lost in the final to Whitehawk in 2022-23 of the Isthmian South East Division. So But ever since that moment, they've sort of been going in a downwards direction. I mean, they were in the FA Vase semi-final in 1990 against Yeading. And they reached the first round of the FA Cup in 2010-11. It just seems to be at the moment that they reached the fourth round of the FA Trophy back in 2023-24 as well, relatively recently. Alas, it seems that they've suddenly in a backwards direction more. Their manager is Ira Jackson, who has never managed before in his life, but he's a bit of a journeyman around Kent non-league scene. If you do follow the Kent non-league scene, you know what I'm talking about. Folkestone and Victor seems to be his main home. Phoenix Sports also got relegated with their daft name. They were definitely not formed as Phoenix Sports, were they? No. They were promoted to the Isthmian League back in 2014-15, but were relegated from there in 2021-22, but immediately got promoted back. I think we're going to continue to see that sort of pattern potentially emerge, that maybe they'll immediately return at this point. I think the big reset is often being talked about in Phoenix Sports at the moment. And I mean, they were named Phoenix Sports actually because they were rising from the ashes of the previous clubs that existed, but because of the destruction of the Blitz, you see, they were named Phoenix Sports. So interesting network trivia there. There's a new team called AFC Greenwich Borough. Greenwich Borough were a team which was in the Southern Counties East League for really long time, and this is a Phoenix club, and they've been admitted straight in. Banstead Athletic were laterally swift, switched across along with Chessington and Hook United. There's been a bit of question marks around about particularly Chessington and Hook's lateral switch, with before them actually taking a step back because of moving into the Kent region. They're in a really difficult area, but I think the Southern combination does certainly seem more of an acceptable sort of position. No, you can maybe move a team like Dorking Wanderers B team into the combined counties. But yeah, it just seems a bit odd that they were, or maybe it's like the Chessington and Hooks should probably have moved from the Southern combination into the combined counties themselves, but into the Southern Counties East makes no sense. Banstead Athletic makes a bit more sense in one regard because they're in East Surrey, aren't they? They're in well, they actually ground share, don't they? With don't they? But I mean, both Chessington. I mean, both of these teams' lateral switches just don't make particular sense actually to me. Lordswood got relegated to Tier 10, having been such a key member of the Premier Division of the Southern Counties East. I mean, since they were in the Premier Division for the entire time that it's existed as a Southern Counties East. They were reprieved in 2021-22 from relegation. They had 3 managers this season, so it's not really a surprise that they did get relegated. But no, but they've been in the Premier Division since 1992-93. Sorry, 1996. 1995-96, when it was known as the Kent League. And the Kent League merged with one of the other leagues it was definitely a merge, wasn't it? It was But I don't know, it might have just been a renaming. But it was like originally known as the Kent League, and so it marks the long end of a stay for Tier 9. We still don't know, I think, over the controversial issue of Snodland Town or Lyd Town, because there was some conversations about reprieving or not yet, because I think it wasn't actually Snodland which were the ones which were questioned, because there was a possible points deduction for Lyd Town, which I think we still haven't actually heard anything about, to be honest. It's really farcical because we all seem to be a bit left in the lurch, to be honest, because it's either Lyd Town or Snodland Town, which are going to be in Tier 10. So I suppose we won't find out, because I'm not planning on looking at the Kent one until the season starts. So I guess we'll find out when the season starts. Spartan South Midlands, new team in the Premier Division, AFC Welling. They've actually now moved away from Welling Garden City, ironically, because they are now ground sharing elsewhere, as in with Potters Bar Town. They've really been on the rise recently. They were in the Spartan South Midlands League Division 2 and won that in 2023-24, won Division 1 last season. Really on the up, I suppose, is the way to put it. So yeah, they've really they were only formed in 2023, having split off from Welling Garden City. It's a bit like the Rugby Borough, Rugby Town situation, where the youth team split off and went their own way. And this is what AFC Welling are doing, and seem to do quite well, I'd say, out of it. Haringey Borough got relegated there on they're really sort of, I'm not quite sure how to say it, back-to-back relegations in the Islam League Premier Division back in 2023-24, and now we're in Tier 9. All of a sudden they're dropping off all over the place, so to speak. They were fourth in, or they got back-to-back playoffs in 2016-17 and 2017-18, in the Isthmian League North Division, and secured promotion. And they reached the first round of the FA Cup in 2018-19, losing only 1-0 at home to AFC Wimbledon. So they were doing really well, and now kaboom, the wheels have come off, and they've sort of started therefore going down leagues in a sense. And now I'm not a fan of Haringey Borough, so I can't tell you, but if someone is, do let me know. Harlow Town got promoted. Well, that was shocking not, because Harlow at one point were a much bigger team. They were in the Southern League, in a sense. Well, not in a sense, they were. And they were in the Isthmian South Central as recently as, in the Southern League as recently as December 2022, when they withdrew because of, problems with an artificial pitch. And so they had to re-enter in at Tier 10, and that's why they've gained an instant promotion. So it's not really a surprise to see them here. Maybe a bit of a surprise to see which league they're in, admittedly. You would have potentially should have seen them in the Essex Senior League, but alas, they're not. Kings Langley have been relegated. They're also another team, much like Haringey Borough. which are on a bit of a downward trajectory, so to speak, because I think it wasn't that long ago then when the Premier Division, was it? Then the Premier Division Central in 2019-20. And yeah, since that point, I don't think they've necessarily been as high as they should have been. I mean, they actually were in 2015-16 winners of the Southern League, Football League Division 1 Central. So they've certainly been in the Tier 7 in the relatively recent history, and yet now we see them in the Spartan South Midlands League. It's a bit of a surprise. Risborough Rangers and Sawbridgeworth Town both moving into this league as it increases, I believe, in size to 20. Not surprised in a sense to see that happening. Both of these teams I would have assumed would have been in that league, and a bit of a shock that they weren't. On to the Division 1, Belston moving across from a combined counties league. That makes sense to me. Everett Rovers, I'm not sure who they are, but they've been promoted. Gordon Manchester Rovers relegated. That's going to be an interesting one to look at because they're going to be playing against local rivals Huntington Town, who were reprieved. They have been sort of in the United Counties League Premier Division South since 2021-22. And yeah, let's be honest, they were lucky not to get relegated last season as they finished 18th out of 20. So yeah, I'm not surprised to see them. They did reach the fourth round of the FA Vars back in 2018-19, which was a good. It wasn't even that long ago, but yeah, I think God Manchester Rovers sort of need that reset, and maybe going a different direction in the country might suit them. New Bradwell St. Peter are being promoted. I think they're coming back to Tier 10, potentially. I'm pretty certain they were. I think they were in a Premier Division back in 1997, 98 and 99. No. In 1998-99, they were in the Premier Division of the Spartan South Midlands League. That was it. So yeah, they've definitely been that high enough position before. So we're going to continue to carry on growing, and now they're restoring the trajectory that they should have been on the whole time. Have their grounds actually been upgraded enough and seen them refounded in 2018? You know, have they left them problems early in the past? Sheffield Town and Campden, I'm not surprised to see them back. They've been struggling for the last few seasons in the Spartan South Midlands Premier League. They were in 18th out of 19th last season. They were only promoted because of the COVID ones. And yeah, I think it was all a little bit too much too soon, and they've sort of just been coasting, basing themselves on reprieves and stuff like that. United Counties League Premier Division North. I'll just talk about these ones from what I've seen because there's no point in doing research and stuff I already know. Blackstones I haven't seen, admittedly, so but I think this probably is quite a good move forward for the club. I don't think they've ever been this high before because they've certainly been in Tier 10 before, but I'm pretty certain they have been in the FA Cup before, so maybe they've been at this level before. But yeah, they're in the United Counties League in 2002, 2003 time. So, I mean, they've not got a lot of pedigree at this level. Admittedly, I've not seen anything of them, so I can't really comment. Claycross Town, however, I have seen play at their home ground. They were beautifully good, gifted footballing team. Kept the ball on ground low, passed well, communicated well, got a very good man manager. Everything around that club seems to be going in the right way. And off the pitch as well, it seems quite good. They've got a good deal with a beer company, and they have a few seated stands and stuff. I just feel like they are a club moving in the right direction. As more can be said for Grantham Town, who play at the South Kesteven District Council athletics track, which is slightly better than Gateshead, because you do get a better, for me, I think, a better vantage point, but it's still an athletics track. It's not ideal. I mean, they did have nice beer, I seem to recall, but just talking about ability on the pitch, I think both Grantham and Sherwood Colliery will talk about at the same time. Both of them were playing at each other. Both were incredibly poor. Sherwood Colliery were miles worse. It's interesting Sherwood Colliery this time around, as well as Claycross Town, have been placed in the United County League Premier Division North. That is what I do like to see. They are East Midlands club after all, so it's fine with them being there. Dronfield Town got laterally switched across along with Swallow's Nest to the United County League Division 1. Swallow Nest, I'm not too sure about. Dronfield Town, I'm fine with. That was for the same reason I was fine with the lateral switching of Claycross a few seasons back. But Swallow Nest, they're basically Sheffield, aren't they? In the borough of Rotherham. I mean, I'm not keen on that as such, because I reckon there could have been other teams they could have taken. FCV Grace Dieu got promoted from the Nottinghamshire League, even though they're based in Leicestershire. So that one's a bit of an odd one. Shirebrook Town got relegated. I can see why. They really have not been good enough, in my opinion. They've just not shown enough effort. Sleaford Town, I mean, they've been in tier 10 now for a while. Or were they promoted last? Like what? I'm sorry. How did Sleaford Town get relegated? Because in 2023-24, they missed out on the playoffs. No, in Premier Division North, like that change turnaround just doesn't make sense to me. And considering how bad Gresley's been this season as well, you must say you can't have been. How have you gone and got yourself into that predicament? South North Athletic are back in Tier 10. Great to see them back. They've got a good, lovely ground there. Might go and see if I can see them 1 point next season. But yeah, certainly a good run club. The United Counties League Premier Division South. Atherstone Town has laterally moved across from the Midland League Premier Division. Not really a surprise in that. Moulton are promoted. They're a tiny village, I believe, in Northamptonshire. They were in the Spartan South Midlands League Division 1 last season, and the season before reached the playoffs as well. But only in 2022 were actually admitted in Spartan South Midlands League. So they're really on a upward trajectory, that club. Nuneaton Town promoted. That's not really a surprise. They're the Phoenix club in Nuneaton Borough, and you'd expect them to do equally well this season. Rugby Town being relegated. A little bit of an interesting situation, that one, because they've been replaced by Rugby Borough. And the Rugby Town are the bigger team, I would argue. They're definitely done some. They've been in the Southern League before. They've won the FA Vars in 1982-83. They won the Southern League Cup in 1989-90. 1986-87, they won the Southern League Division 1 Midlands. like the 80s was a great time back for 90 for the Rugby Town lads. They had a great FA Cup run as well, going all the way to the second round, beating Bristol Rovers, as well as memorable ties against Northampton Town, Bristol City, and Leyton Orient. In a testimonial, they played against Manchester United before. So yeah, it's a real difference between where they were in the Southern League back in the past and where they are now, with them now back in Tier 9, back in the United Counties League. I mean, they've been in the United Counties League before. It'll be interesting to see if they can return to the Northern Premier League Midlands Division. They did struggle in that league, it must be said, for the last couple of seasons. Wessex Football League, Premier Division, Beamerton Heath Harlequins took a voluntary demotion. I'm still not entirely sure why. Maybe it was for transportation reasons. They are quite a small geographical area, and they're competing with like a Salisbury and Winchester City nearby, which will always mean that they will be facing a difficult battle. East Cowes Victoria Athletic, good to see the Isle of Wight team doing well, and they're back, I suppose you could say. Yeah, that they were challenging towards the upper end of the table for quite a while. I believe they've been in the Wessex League Premier Division before. But I'm not sure. But they've won the Wessex League Cup back in 1987-88. I mean, they reached the second round of the FA Vars this season as well, so they've done a great job. And it'll be interesting to see if they can not maroon themselves at the bottom of the table like in Ireland. New Milton Town. Beautiful logo of New Milton Town. I would not be... I mean, I'm a bit surprised seeing them promoted, seeming that they were in 19th in Tier 10 last season. But they've turned it around and done an incredible job to be where they are in earning promotion. But they've also been in Tier 8 before. They were Wessex League champions in 2003-04, and therefore they were earned promotion to Division 1 of the Isthmian League, and then transferred to Division 1 South and West of the Southern League, were relegated from that in 2006-07. So in that regards, they have got the pedigree of playing at this level before. Petersfield Town have moved across to them, and that makes complete sense to me. In Division 1, Blackfield and Langley have been relegated. I think that's a bit of a disappointing one. They weren't that long ago in the Southern League, were they? They were in the Premier Division South of the Southern League in 2019-20, but they resigned and then joined the Wessex League and have then struggled in the Wessex League, and now this season, of course, have been relegated. What a silly backward step that was, eh? Coldham Common have been promoted. I don't really know who they are. Not going to lie. They do have a Wikipedia page. So they have been in the Wessex League before. They earned the double of a Division 1 title and the Hampshire Intermediate Cup in 2004. So, yeah, they've been in the Wessex League before, when the Hampshire League was Wessex, before the Wessex League exists, or was higher up, they were also there. So they have had sort of their moments, but nowhere near enough or consistently enough, so to speak, to be able to stamp themselves as a player in or person in Tier 10 which has struck on my interest, compared to somebody like Canterbury Rangers, for example, which have definitely been in Tier 10 before, but actually not in the Wessex League. They were in the Hellenic League in that one. Being in the Hellenic League Division 1 East runners-up in 2004-05, staying in there until 2010-11. So they certainly have that history of Tier 10 football and have been successful in the Wiltshire League of late. Where that can translate into Wessex League is a different question. United Services Portsmouth being relegated. I think the season before the one we've just had was also a struggle. They were in 19th out of 20. They were promoted again. It's one of them COVID ones. A lot of them COVID ones seems to actually be coming back down now, and it seems to be balancing itself out. Yateley United are naturally moving across. Again, not really surprised about that one. They're in Hampshire. Admittedly, they are in that top corner of Hampshire, but even so, any Hampshire-based club, in my opinion, should be in the Wessex League. The final ones in the Western League, Bradford Town have been promoted. They're back. Bradford Town were in the Western, or I think they were actually in the Wessex League at the time. But they were definitely a team which were Hellenic League. They are in the Hellenic League. They normally move around, several of them, in the Western League, Hellenic League, or Wessex League. But they were alas relegated in 2022-23 and have now returned back to this level where they spent before time a total of 9 seasons at. So yeah, I think Bradford Town will be fine this season. Helston Athletic are returning for Western League. I did think Tier 8 would be a step too far for them. We were promoted the season before last, or the season before the one we've just had. And I think the Western League will be a good position for them. It means less transportation, and they can really focus on rebuilding. Newquay as well got promoted, so another one in Cornish team. Cornish football is on the rise. I think Newquay has had some gates receipts this season, which have had over 1,000 fans in attendance. I mean, their largest attendance is never going to be broken. They had 3,500 in 1998 in a friendly match against Manchester City. They also reached the fourth round of the FA Vars in 1990-91. But they've been really in the Southwestern League most of their history, which then became the Southwest Peninsula League. And they've been in basically their entire history until they experienced these recent promotions, or this recent promotion rather. So it'll be interesting to see how they bridge that difference between the Southwestern Peninsula League, which is actually quite a small geographical area compared to the Western League. Sidmouth Town also got promoted. The team from Devon, the Vikings as they're called. I didn't really see this one on the cards. Clearly, they've been building themselves up into a great team. They've had their best FA Vars performance this season, reaching the first round. So yeah, we'll see if Sidmouth can adjust as well to this level. And then finally, we've got Almondsbury getting promoted into the Western League. I'm not surprised about that one. Almondsbury have been at this level before. I'm pretty certain. They're in the Division 1 of the Western League when they were promoted in 2003-04. If they did finish bottom with that in 2016-17, transferred to the Hellenic League in 2017-18, back to Division 1 of the Western League, but were relegated in 2022-23. And finally, Welton Rovers are relegated to this level. Again, not really surprised. I think they were lucky not to be relegated last season when we were 17th out of 18th. And I believe it was a reprieve which managed to mean that they avoided it. And they only reached the Western League Premier Division in 2021-22 by winning the playoffs. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please subscribe if you're new around here. It's been a tiring one. It's been a long slog, but we're here. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye for now.